Hello and welcome. My name is Katie and I am here with Nicola Jackson. She is the Director of Training and Education for the National Notary Association. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I wanted to have you on. The National Notary Association is such a good resource as far as getting notaries basically up to speed on, the different types of laws, how to get commissioned and everything like that. So I wanted to give you a little bit I wanted to have that conversation to kind of see if you could talk to anyone that is not quite sure, their next steps as to becoming a remote online notary or just becoming a notary in general.
The biggest thing to worry about is whether or not the document's complete. And the good news is blank spaces look the same in every language.
Yes,
So, you know what I mean? Like that's one universal thing we can rely on. So as long as the notary part that you're filling out, is good, you're usually going to be able to do it. But we, are back up against the wall when we see a document we don't understand because we're that fixated that we're supposed to know what it says, but we don't have to know. And that's the great part.
Yeah. And then like for the most part, like if I've had people that ask me, they're like, what is the most interesting document that you've ever seen? I wouldn't say that anyway, just because of privacy and everything like that. But in general, I'm like, I don't retain any of it because I only care about my part. Like, they could be saying that they're the king of France, and it's not really my job I'm not notarizing that they're the king of France. I'm just notarizing that the person is in front of me,
Right.
So yeah, that was always like an interesting part of explaining what it is that I do or, what it is that notaries do.
When you figure out how to do that, let me know because I still can't figure out how to explain it quickly to somebody when they ask me what my job is. So
I have so many people that are like, what is it that you actually do? And if I'm feeling like a little bit sassy, I'm like, I just stamp documents. That's what people think that we do.
That's the quick fix.
I just stamp documents, it's like, I don't have to, obviously we know that there's a lot more that goes into it, but for the general public, it's like, no. How do you do you get pushback when people are like, you can't make a career out of this or you can't make a job out of this? Because I do get that a lot. Do you find that to be true as well? Or like,
I think initially the perception is like, well, you could just go to the bank or, or somewhere and get a notary. And the answer is you are right, but go in there with your document that's not related to the bank and they're going to send you away. And it only takes somebody one time to figure that out before I get the call like, hey, do you still do that notary thing? So to your question, yes, I do. There's so many people I know that do have this as their career, are in the transition of making it their career. But, it's a good thing. It's a teaching moment and, just to refer people out. And it's like, you never know. One thing I know for sure is you can never find a notary when you need one because everybody always is suddenly looking for one. So when I tell them what I do, it's like, oh, there's notaries everywhere. But when someone needs one, they don't ever seem to remember where they are everywhere. So that's good for us.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I do the same thing where, people are like, oh, you can just go to your bank for that. And I'm like, well, what about on a Sunday? Because I used to work in banking for however many years. We're we work on bankers' hours and bankers' holidays. And, we don't do some of the documents that they would necessarily want. And I know that some banks just have completely gone away from having notaries at all. So, I mean, I think that the general public is kind of figuring that out and then, keeping my number when stuff pops up and stuff like that. Yeah, it's definitely something that you can either do as like on the side or as a career with enough effort. It does take a while to get to that point.
And effort is the key word. It's a lot of effort. So yes, it can be a career, but just like any career, you really have to put the work in. Because I know plenty of people someone came to their house and notarized documents and they decided they wanted to get into it and realized it was much more work than they thought it was going to be. Because it's, you got to sign up 8 million companies and put your name out there and tell everyone you're a notary. And it's like, but there's people doing it. So, and there's people making money doing it. So it is possible. And there's a lot of people that are following certain trainers' strategies and methods, and they're working for those people. So, they can't all be wrong about this.
That's something that I kind of find to be true, that some people only pick up on, how much you can make an hour and not necessarily all of the work that goes into the back end of it. And it's definitely not a get rich quick kind of thing.
No.
In any sense of the word. It's very much engrossing of my life. So it's like, okay, this is my identity now. But yeah, so I do like it because the notary stamp is something that you can always kind of fall back on, whatever it is for your walk of life or your career. Like if you need to be able to do a couple notarizations to pay for some Christmas presents or your car breaks down, I definitely think that this is something I advocate for it 100%.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it is so doable, but the front end and the first step takes a lot of work to do, especially just to get the first one done because, they want people with experience, but you can't get experience unless you've done some stuff. So that's why I would say the more notarizations that you can perform on basic levels before you start getting into the niche work with real estate and, all the other stuff, just regular notary customers. The best advice someone ever gave was to go to the UPS store because they have a notary in there, but they're not always working. So even just having that call of hey, can you come help my customer? Just to get that experience is so important.
And I 100% agree because even still to this day, drop off my cards at FedEx or any of the UPS that I work go drop by. And I know some UPS or FedEx will say no, we already partner with someone, but there's some that are okay, I'll definitely take your information, and then they give out my information. And then that's where I got some of my first notarizations is there was a pack and ship that the guy didn't want to do the notarization. So he just called me. So shout out to that person because that was very nice and helpful in my career.
And even other notaries, because sometimes the day that they get called to do something, they are busy and don't want to lose that customer. So by helping that person find someone else to do it, saves them as well. But, so while you may think, okay, it's not a good idea to talk with the other notaries in my area doing this, actually it's the opposite because you create a network. I can't even tell you how important I think that is too.
I 100% agree. The first notary that was local that I reached out to that was doing this and advertising and doing this full time, I was like, hey, can we get coffee? And I was expecting to kind of get met with a brick wall. And she was like, let's get coffee. I'm going to go over everything with you. We're going to talk about it. We're going to, talk about, she was incredible. She talked about fees. She talked about everything. And to this day, we're very good friends and we've referred work back and forth. But yeah, it's 100% a good way to get a client base because now I do primarily remote. I hardly ever go out and do in-person notarizations. And then, I work with ProNotary and we do a lot of stuff where I'm behind the computer or just out networking. And so I now refer work out to my pool of in-person notaries because I don't do them as much. So it definitely reach out to your local notaries because usually if they're good, they're going to be nice and collaborative.
I agree. The ones with the walls up, and they may have been burned by someone or had an experience or something like that. But for the most part, everybody's got something to gain from a situation and they should be at least open to hearing what you have to say because they know the struggle themselves.
And I'm so glad that we connected too. I think the next thing that you guys have going on is the Las Vegas NNA, correct?
Virtually, we have a success summit coming up August 16th, which is something we do for I do a 3-hour virtual event just with different workshops. There's another one in October. And then you're right. Next June is Vegas NNA 2025. It's going to be very exciting. So I'm in the planning stages of that right now. I'm kind of getting the thing. We're going to be putting a call out for speakers soon of people who have workshop ideas that they want to teach. So there'll be a video out soon of, for submissions for that. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about that is having all the notaries in one place and having a place to talk about this with everybody around you knows and is excited to hear about this. And it's not always, you can't have this conversation at the dinner table. You know what I mean?
No, it's a completely different, it's a completely different thing for me to say, I got to the place and the person ID was expired. Exactly the feeling that I was feeling during that time, but they're okay. And
so what? It's still them.
Yeah, it's you can see that it's them. It's but.
So yeah, it's nice to talk shop and hear ideas, what other people are doing and stuff that you never thought. And, it's just a really nice place to be with all those people. And it's a lot of fun too. And you learn so much and you learn as much in the sessions as you do from the individuals that are there. And you make friends that you see once a year at the conferences every year. So it really is my favorite event. And it's the place where, the whole notary community is there. there. So all these people you see all over social media are in person, and you kind of get to really like pick who your people are. So it's nice.
I went to the one in Arizona, and I was like, oh my gosh, for some of them, which, is funny because I didn't, I wasn't in the industry. So then I didn't really understand the impact of what the education portion of the notary world really does, and it's important. It's important because notaries that don't necessarily know what they're doing can really mess up some of the documents and major parts of people's lives. So yeah, the education part is
Inadvertently
important.
too, just with innocent little mistakes. So yeah, it's true.
But I wanted to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate that you spent your time with me. What is the best way to find out more information about the NNA and also to connect with you?
So the NNA's website, nationalnotary.org, is the best way. And then you can find me at Notary Nicola on all of the social media channels,
Yeah.
except Twitter or X, whatever you call it. I've never gotten into that. Maybe it's my age, but yeah. And then the NNA's also social media is super fun. So we collaborate on a lot of stuff there. But yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much. And then also for ProNotary, if you are interested in learning more about the remote online notarization software, we are doing a ton of different things within the space, and we'd love to have you come and book a demo or become a member. So thank you so much.